buddy Adam, and you are checking out Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. This is a very special podcast audit session. I've got Jimmy Jett from the Snail Trail 4x4 Off-Road Podcast. What a name, right? And we're going to dig into his show, talk about downloads, talk about audience engagement, talk a little growth, a little monetization. And I think it's going to be a good one. So, Jimmy, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Adam. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to learn.
Living in the Barbie dream house, man.
Yeah.
We were talking beforehand, like you're not in the normal podcast studio today. You're in your daughter's playroom, and I think it looks awesome.
Yeah. It's I could give you a whole tour of the mansion right beside me. And the piano behind. It's a wonderful spot in here. It's fun to do some work and then have Barbie, playing in a pool behind you.
Yeah,
sometimes.
she can do your editing and production. So,
oh yeah, it's great. She'll
VA.
correct me sometimes. It's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. That's one of the powers of podcasting, though. We can do it anywhere, anytime, any Barbie dream house. We're pretty much good to go. So
absolutely,
I love that. All right, let's dive into your show. And I think I want you to paint a picture for me to kind of set the course for our conversation. So let's say we're having this talk 6 months from today, and everything's going really well. What would that mean to you? What would that look like for you?
I think if 6 months from now, everything's going really well. I think for me, it'd be primarily download numbers would be skyrocketing, and we already have pretty good audience retention or engagement, and so I think really what the bonus for me would just be download rates. Download numbers would be the big bonus. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got a really nice niche. People that are into your show are going to see that title and be like, yeah, this is for me. So that's excellent. This is one of the rare occasions on a podcast audit where I'm not like, you need to change your show title, because everyone comes in like, he's going to make me change my show title. I know it. But I feel like it's very identifiable. You got off-road in there, 4x4 is in there, like that. Those are great SEO terms for you. So congrats on that. Well done. But when we talk about download growth, I want to know first off, like, who is your ideal listener? Let me make sure I get super clear on that, and then we can dish out some download growth ideas.
Yeah, I mean, so I have a co-host. His name's Tyler. He unfortunately wasn't able to make it today, but I think our ideal listeners are really him and I. Like it's us, and that's a really we joke about it all the time on the podcast. Like we'd be talking off-roading and talking in 4x4ing regardless. We're just now hitting the microphone button, hitting that big red button, hitting the record, and then sharing it with everybody. So our ideal customer is really, somebody that enjoys going off-roading, building their vehicle, like tinkering, getting their hands dirty, probably somebody that has a little bit of extra cash, probably a little bit older in life because they'll have a little better job at that point, a little bit extra cash, and can spend a little bit on things that can bring them more enjoyment and take them to more extreme outdoor areas.
Yeah. Okay. So that definitely popped a few ideas into my head. I think that with your audience, we want to create super fans. That would be my number one focus, because I feel like one super fan is worth 10 average listeners. And a lot of people like go straight to Facebook ads. How do I pay for Facebook ads and just scoop up as many downloads as possible? But I feel like for you, the super fan route is going to be the more effective use of your time. So then we go, okay, how do we create more super fans? How do we get people just obsessed about our show? Because those people go out and share it out. And in the 4x4 and off-roading community, I would assume that this isn't something that they just do by themselves. I bet they have friends that are in the same niche. They have like little groups that talk about, friend groups or whatever, that talk about what they're doing with their vehicles. Is that a correct assumption?
Oh, okay. Yeah. We get messages with people listening to the podcast while they're wrenching in their garage with their friends. So yeah, absolutely. You're nailing it on the head.
Perfect. So I really want you thinking, how do we engage these people? How do we make these people extra excited?
Mhm.
One thing off the top of my head is doing something like what I do at the Pod Pal Zoom parties, like some sort of monthly get together on the show, like the off-road enthusiast episode where you're pulling 10, 15, 20 of your listeners, maybe even just like you encourage the listener groups to be like, all right, you can apply who are your off-road, crew, your 5 friends that you all get together, listen to the show, work on things together. We're going to bring all of you on and we're going to have a session on the show, talk about your project that you're actually working on with your car. Like, I feel like that would be really interesting to bring actual listeners up. Maybe it's one person like what we're doing here, or maybe it's a group of people that are working on a project together and kind of just breaking it down and kind of crowdsourcing ideas. You could do that, with just 20 random people as well. It doesn't have to be people that know each other, and they could bring out like what they're working on, ask for a tip. Here's my email if you've got an idea. Maybe they're stuck on something and they need to, have you chime in on some advice, or they can put it out to the listening audience. Hey, email me. If I'm really stuck with this part, I can't find it. If you have it, let me know. Here's my email. Sort of a crowdsourcing situation. I think that could go over really well as really solid content for your show. Any light bulbs going off for you there?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's an interesting idea. One that we haven't broached yet. I did think some sort of live stream. I've been listening to you for a while, so I've trying to brainstorm with everything
Yeah.
you've been giving us free out there in the world for everybody. I do think some sort of live stream would be a benefit to us, but I do like the idea of getting people, sort of. I don't know if you're familiar with Click and Clack. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard of them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then there was sort of the same way, right? Like, oh, you have a problem with your vehicle, like let us solve the problem for you. And
Yep.
so this is kind of along that avenue where, it's, oh, you're building your rig. Let's bring you and your friends on here and let's talk about how you're building your rig and why you're building it that way.
Yeah. I like the idea of creating some sort of a flow where you set the topic and then you put a call to action out to your audience and go, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to be covering this topic. If you are interested in that topic, building a rig or whatever the topic of the week is, then sign up to be on the show and bring your questions, bring your ideas, bring your project, what you're thinking about working on, and let's create content together. Like, I really like this because it's going to be really nice expert positioning for you as somebody that, it's going to elevate your status among the community. It's going to create super fans. It's going to get those people like out there sharing out the show. And it's going to just what I call, it's an audience activation technique. It gets them off the sidelines, gets them into the game. Now they've actually interacted with you. They're going to go and tell everybody they know about this, especially when their episode airs. They're going out there and they're talking to all their buddies that build 4x4s and drive off-road and things like that. So I think this is a way to kind of become a people's champion in this space and just grow it kind of virally.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, we've always been doing the shout outs, hey, please share this with your friends, your mom, your dog, whoever. And, it only goes so far. But once you start inviting people on, you do any sort of sharing we found is massive growth. Like if
Yeah.
you get another podcast to come on your podcast, then they share it on their platform. And any avenue of sharing, I do agree. It would be a big bonus for us.
Yeah. And then other super fan techniques, any way you can shout people out, like a fan of the show project of the week, like, show us what you're working on, send us a picture, we'll share it on the gram and we'll shout you out, or on the show. So-and-so is building a sweet 4x4 truck. He sent us a picture, we posted on Instagram. Make sure that's a nice little segue into your Instagram. Like, make sure you follow us on Instagram so you can see our fan shout out of the week. So that kind of ties in. You could have, them phone in a question of the week, something like that. Our fan question of the week, like you can use something like Spreaker where they just record it on your website, it uploads, you take the audio and then answer it. That's all cool stuff. Giveaways, co-branded stuff. When you're talking about sponsorships, this is a great way to plant seeds with sponsors, is reach out to a company that your people are obsessed with, whether it's parts or services or whatever, and go, hey, we've got this show. I would love to do a co-branded giveaway on episode blah, blah, blah. Have them record a little 2-minute like commercial to kind of talk about what they're about and why they're doing the giveaway. And you could say, all right, like one of my favorite techniques with a giveaway is a share it out giveaway. So I want your listener to screenshot an episode. It doesn't have to be the latest, but it can be one of their favorites. Share it on their Instagram story, tag you, tag the sponsor of the giveaway, and they can do that every single day that the giveaway is active. So if it's a 7-day thing, a 5-day thing, so they could share it out 5, 6, 7 times. And especially in your niche, those people probably have people that follow them that are into the 4x4 and off-road, so they're seeing this. It's like little micro advertisements for your show. So I think something like that could work really well, and it doesn't cost you anything. And you're building a potential sponsorship. Like, let's say you get a really strong reaction. They're going, well, how do we do more of this? How can we get more involved in your brand? So how does that feel for you?
Yeah, we kind of do something along that line already. We do every month, we do a sponsored giveaway. We do advertising for them on every single episode during that month. And then we have sort of a poll, a place that people can go to and get themselves entered into the drawing for the giveaway. It's here in California, it's hard to do giveaways legally. So we kind of we're tiptoeing that line of how to do it. However, I think that there are using Instagram and polling, using the platform of Instagram to share those things is an absolute big bonus on getting the name out there for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Now you mentioned having people on your show that are in the same space and them sharing it out. Another technique that works really well, and since you listen to the show, you probably noticed like every Tuesday I have a different podcaster introducing my show. And I think that's going to be magical for you and your brand, where what I would do is reach out to anybody that's been on your show. If they have a podcast, go, hey, we're going to do this promo intro swap thing. We're trying to get 6 months in a row of somebody in the space introducing an episode. You get to shout out your brand, your show on our show, and then we get to do the same thing on your show. Like, I've never had anybody be like, no, screw you, man, I don't want to do this, especially if they've already been on your show. So that little ad, we all like being guests on other people's podcasts, but it takes 45 minutes or an hour of your time. And I found as good of, if not better, results from these little 10-second ads that are just swaps. So that's something to consider, especially if they've been on your show, they have a podcast, and for whatever reason, they didn't invite you to be on their show. This is another bridge back to kind of facilitate that conversation a little bit. And like, let's look at all this value I'm adding to you, man. Like, have me on your show. So I think that would go over pretty well for you too.
Yeah, I've heard you discuss that before, and I think that's a phenomenal idea. I was considering reaching out to a bunch of the other off-road podcasts because there are a good handful of us, and we're actually really decently good friends. We all see it as an avenue of, there's a lot of growth for our industry in podcasting, and we just communicate really well and give each other shout outs already. So I do think that is a good avenue. And it was only recently brought to my attention of, why do I need to stick into that off-road industry niche? Why don't I look at the outdoor industry to try to get onto another person's podcast? Like, I can get onto a fishing podcast to tell them that there's an off-road podcast, because I'm sure there's people out there that use their vehicle to drive out to a remote lake somewhere to go fishing, and that would be the perfect collaboration for
now
us.
You're thinking.
Yeah, that was
outdoor activity. I would even look at like sports podcasts. Like, what are so maybe even look at your outdoor enthusiasts. Maybe this would be a great poll for Instagram or an email list, and go like, what outside of 4x4 style off-roading podcasts, what other types of podcasts do you listen to? And just see what comes up. I bet, like you said, outdoors, sports. I think those would be two like no-brainers for sure. And swapping in those spaces, like that's money time right there. That's going to really scoop things up. And I like how you're thinking tangentially and kind of opening your mind to these other markets where you can be a unique expert. And I experienced something this past week. I told you I was down in Texas speaking. I was speaking at a health event. I emceed a health event, and I picked up more business for podcast launches at a health event than any podcasting industry event that I've ever attended and spoke on the main stage at. And that's because I was one of one. I was the podcast coach expert guy, and no one else, everyone else was there as a health expert.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So think about that when you're guessing on these other kind of tangential shows and be like, all right, I'm going to be the 4x4 off-road expert for this person in this niche. And if you do get an opportunity, maybe they have a virtual summit, maybe they've got something like a speaking engagement like that, and you can pull in all these people by being the one of one expert. Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about those tangential relationships. So well done on that. Now, as far as like continuing that conversation, have you done any podcast player app ads at all, like Overcast or anything like that? Okay.
No, nothing. I haven't done any we've never paid for ads for the growth of our podcast yet.
Okay. So something that I would consider is tucking away a certain percentage that you decide of like your monthly, if you get like a sponsorship from these companies that are doing giveaways or whatever, just set up a little marketing budget, and it doesn't have to be that much, and go, okay, we're going to invest this in podcast player app ads for like the back half of the year or something like that as an experiment, or 90 days or whatever. And something like Overcast, Overcast FM would be cool because they allow you to pick any category. So it doesn't have, there are other platforms where they tell you based off of what your show is listed under. Like I'm listed under business, marketing, and education. So on a lot of the other platforms, those are the only options I have. It's got to be an ad in the business category or education category. With Overcast, it's got all the categories. If I was you, I'd be all over like the lifestyle. I'd be all over the health. I'd be all over the sports. And you just watch those ads. They are demand-based pricing. So I can share with you some of my charts, on my nerd charts on what's a good price, what's not. But if you're paying between $5 and $7 per new subscriber, then we're doing pretty good. And you can drop a couple $100 and get 50, 60, 75, 100 new subscribers for your show. And subscribers, not downloads. That's a key distinction I like to make. Like these, if you have 100 episodes and you get 70 new subscribers, you could potentially have hundreds, if not thousands, of downloads that pop up out of that if they become obsessed with your show. So I think looking at something like Overcast FM, I've got another platform that it's like the Voldemort of the show. Like I don't say its name on the show because I ruined Overcast a little bit. I did an episode back in the 130s of my show, and the prices, because it's demand based, I turned a whole bunch of people on Overcast, and the prices went skyrocketing. But I'll send you another platform to look at as well. I shall not mention its name on the show, but you'll get that info as well. So you can look at those two different platforms, and that way you can see like, all right, for a couple $100 or $300, they're projecting this download range. I really like it. Like I try to have something running on a platform. There are some new ones out. Spotify finally is allowing us to do audio ads on podcasts, which is a big deal. I'm experimenting with that. I don't feel great about it yet. So I'm going to continue that experiment, and then I'll put up an episode about that once I feel comfortable sharing that knowledge. But like Buzzsprout has a pretty good little program right now where you can insert audio ads and pick a category on Buzzsprout hosted podcasts and stick your audio ad right in there. Now, the Overcast platform is a banner ad. So that's like, you can have that up and running within 5 minutes of me telling you where to go. And it's put together. There's no weird Facebook algorithm targeting anything. You just pick the category. It pulls your information off your show description, your show image. You've got a banner ad, and it starts immediately. The Buzzsprout ads, you have to record some audio, and there's a little bit of targeting there, but it's nothing like Facebook or Instagram, which I totally hate running ads on that. I feel like a freaking child on there. I'm just like, I can't figure this out. Mark Zuckerberg, you just took a whole bunch of my money, and I got no results. Or I get like weird people DMing me on Instagram that are saying rude things, like, do you want sexy time? No, I don't. So anyway, how do you feel about the ad situation? Do you feel like that's an area to explore, or are we not there yet?
Yeah, no, I think it's about time for us to do that. One of the major reasons I wanted to jump on with you is to get more ideas on how to really grow our download rates, because we've been on podcasting for 3 years now. We're over 300 episodes. We're releasing 2 a week. Um, and for the last year, we've been pretty stagnant on our
Okay.
downloads. Like, we get whenever we release it does good, and then they all hover right around that same download rate. And so it's
Yeah.
okay, what do we need to do now? What's the next step? How do we move ourselves to the next level? And I do think that, doing the live stream, like you were saying, would be a bonus for us. Doing some shared content, getting onto those intros would be absolutely an excellent avenue, and looking into different genres. And then I do think that paid advertising is probably our next major
Yeah.
move for us. So
Yeah, like it really, really works. I was kind of upset that it took me 5 years to find it. I was like, man, I wish I knew about this my first 100 episodes, and just because you can pay and they're real subscribers. And I've had people that convert over into clients and I actually interact with, and like, oh, yeah, I found you on the Overcast app. I'm like, sweet, that worked. So it's really cool. Now let's set some goals, because I feel like that's important, especially around guesting and podcast promo intro swaps.
okay.
So I think a good guesting goal for you guys is to be on someone else's show that makes sense at least once a month. So if you can be a guest on 12 shows that are in a lane that makes sense, where you can scoop up some audience. So like you said, the outdoors podcast, even other car niches that specialize, because there's some crossover there. And really target people. Go and find those shows, invite them on your show first, for if there's anything they can talk about that would be applicable to your show. Then, or at least maybe do like an Instagram live with them, add value to them first, try to bring them on. Maybe you do a regular Instagram live where you highlight other people in the industry that may have interests. I'm just looking for a way to open the door to build a relationship, like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
something there. Make friends, and then try to work to set that goal. One invite on a show that makes sense per month. I would set a goal of 4 podcast promo intro swaps per month. Like
Wow.
it's very doable. Like I set
Okay.
a goal for myself to have one every single episode this year, and so far so good. I know a lot of podcasters, and pretty much anybody with a podcast can do that with me. That's the
Right.
advantage. So but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a shoot for the stars, you might hit the moon sort of a situation. And just every single one of those that you have out there is just a seed planted. And that, as that show grows, people binge listen to that show. That other show probably won't have a whole bunch of these. They probably won't start doing a bunch of them like you. So that your episode's going to stand out. It'll be weird, unique, different. It's a pattern disrupt. So I feel like that's a good thing for you. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Okay, cool. So some good goals there. Now let's talk implementation. So we talked a lot about ideas. A lot of ideas were thrown about here, like always here on the old podcast audit. What do you think is something that you could knock out in the next 24 hours? Like I'm going to follow up with you and send you like that other podcast player app ad and thing like that. So next 24 hours, what's something that you think you can put in work to start initiating momentum with at least one of these ideas?
Definitely the intros. I think that'll be I think that'll be the easier one for me. I do know a lot of people in the podcast industry, especially in the niche, or in my
Yeah.
niche,
Yeah.
So I do think that would be one that we could do an easy trade and swap with. Getting into the other genres might be a little bit more difficult, because I
Mhm.
need to make those introductions, but that's that's something I can do in the next 24 hours for sure.
Heck yeah, man. So I'll send you my script that I use for my podcast promo intro swap.
Okay.
Have you done one for me yet? I don't think.
No,
Okay, there's
I
number
was
one.
gonna.
There's
You were
one of
gonna be my
one right there. So
Yeah.
I'll send you
All
my
right.
script, record your audio for me, and then there's one. We got one
Yeah.
good to
Check. I'm
go.
done for the 24 hours now.
Easy start. So yeah, definitely do that. And I'll send you the episode. There's one episode where I really broke down the technique. Have your podcast co-host listen to that too, so they get on board. It's like, okay, this is why we're doing this. So I think that'll be some good homework. Cool. All right, Jimmy Jed, it's time to shout out your brand, your website, your show. Where do people go to find you, man?
Yeah, I'm Jimmy Jett. I run Snail Trail 4x4 podcast and Snail Trail 4x4 on YouTube. You can also find me at the same name on Instagram. We're all about rock crawling. We talk a lot about Toyotas, but we're all in all different genres of vehicles. What we discuss is it's applicable to any vehicle. And if you enjoy going off-roading, then this is the podcast for you.
Outstanding. Well, Jimmy, I really enjoyed. I know we've DM'd a few times back and forth on Instagram, and now we actually get to create content together. So, if you guys are sitting out there and you're like, "Man, I've interacted with Adam a little bit. I think I'm ready to take our relationship to the next level. Let's put a ring on it. Get signed up for a podcast audit. Go to the website podcastingbusiness.school. Get signed up before that wait list grows. Jimmy waited like 5 years to get on. Not that long, but it was a while. And we finally got him on. We're creating content. So I invite
And it was
all
well
companies-
worth it.
Well worth the wait.
Yes.
All right, pod pals. So again, hit the website podcastingbusiness.school. Get signed up for a podcast audit. And with that, I will send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads.